Good evening. Welcome to the Bloomfield Township Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for November 8th, 2022. On behalf of the Bloomfield Township staff and all the members of the Zoning Board, we welcome your attendance and participation this evening. As a brief introduction, the Zoning Board of Appeals is a 7-member quasi-judicial body appointed by the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees. Per the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, matters pending before the Zoning Board of Appeals are decided on a case-by-case basis. Any appeal of a decision made by the Zoning Board of Appeals is subject to circuit court review. Each case will be called separately in the order shown on tonight's agenda. There will be an opportunity for public comment at one point during each case. All persons wishing to comment will be asked to provide their name and address at the podium. Address your comments to the board and not the applicant or other members of the public. Given the number of appeals tonight, please make your comments brief. Comments by the Neighborhood Association will be considered as part of the factual information presented to the board, but the comments are not the determining factor for approval or denial. Please confine comments to the specific request before the board. For a request to be successful, an affirmative vote of at least 4 members present is required. We hope this provides a better understanding of what you can expect at tonight's meeting. So let's take attendance.
So noted.
Okay, so I'll need a motion from the board on the approval of the zoning board minutes of October 18th, 2022.
So moved.
I just want to make a note. There was a slight amendment that was brought to my attention. Item 15, instead of the motion passing 6-0, it has been changed now in my latest draft to motion passed 5-1.
So moved as amended.
Support.
So I have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. So we'll call the first item now, item 1T 3185 Franklin Road. So if you could state your name and address and the reasons for the request.
Good afternoon, Chris Zerps with Motor City Landscaping, representing Colin Goldsmith at 3185 Franklin. Seeking approval for these illuminated pillars with a drive gate. And last time we were here, we discussed the reason why it had to be 6 feet high, and the homeowner agreed that they didn't have a reason either. So we lowered the pillars to 4 feet and the gate as well. So that's the only thing that changed since we.
And I think the other request was to understand what it was connected to, because it wasn't apparent from the first meeting as to.
Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the hedge is now shown on there, the proposed 4-foot hedge. So that's just to create a privacy barrier, and the gate is also to discourage people from using their driveway to turn around, restrict access.
Okay. Thanks very much. Any questions from the board? I'll open this to the public for comment. Anyone like to speak? Close public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the request for a dimensional variance and a permission request at 3185 Franklin Road, I would start with the permission request first and move that it be approved as submitted based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. The accessory structure will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property because of its location, size, or the actual feature itself. With that having been said, the dimensional variance, I'm going to move that it also be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome. We have had more than I have on more than one occasion articulated the need for homes such as these to have privacy features available to them because they do seem to attract people who like to turn around in their driveways. There is no injustice to adjoining neighbors by the very reasons that were outlined in the permission request. Unique circumstances of the property have been provided to us, and this certainly is not a self-created issue. The need for privacy on major roads such as Franklin is important to our residents. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year. All permits must be obtained prior to construction, and there needs to be a hold harmless agreement on file with the township for the gates.
Support.
I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Calling the next item, number 15605 Kenmore.
Hello. I'm Stephen with Creative Brick on behalf of 5605 Kenmore. Tonight we are seeking approval to install a non-illuminated sport court with 6-foot netting. The location of the court is in the rear corner of the property and meets the dimensional requirements. 10-foot evergreens have recently been planted along the property line, shielding the view from adjacent neighbors. The court provides a level, safe area for the family to enjoy. We feel there is no objection based on the standard conditions of the ordinance, and we are simply asking for permission for the use of the accessory items. Can answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Thank you. That was a very succinct and effective presentation. I'll open this to the public. Anyone like to comment on this? If you could come forward, state your name and address.
Yeah, hi, my name is Steve Babcock, 5720 Kilbrennan. I'm the president of the Braves of Bloomfield 3 HOA in which this house is located. My only question is, it states in the document that this is Donnie Puta's house, but several months ago it was sold to Chanel and Nimer Haddad. So that's a little confusing. Can that be?
Maybe it wasn't changed in the assessing department when they did
got
the
it.
property
Okay.
transfer, so it
Okay.
just wasn't updated in our system.
Okay. The only question that arose in our neighborhood was people were concerned, what is the court going to be used for? I forgot the name. What's the name of the paddle game lately
Pickleball.
that's very noisy? People complain.
Pickleball?
Pickleball. Some people complained and didn't complain, showed concern that may be allowed, and how late in the day would it be used? So that's the only concern that was raised in our neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll
Other than that, no objection.
answer those questions. Okay. Does anyone else like to speak on this item? You could come forward, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Debbie Quinidon. I live in Kirkwood subdivision, which is located behind Kenmore.
Address, please.
5758 Raven Road. I've written something I'd like to read about that, if I may. Regarding the request for an approval of a large sports court with fencing, our concerns center on 4 areas. As Steve mentioned, noise from the court, in use especially, I would guess, in the summer and fall, in evenings. I'm concerned that that this could create, if it's pickleball, that is more of a problem than if it's basketball. The picture you showed a basketball court earlier. Can you tell me if it's going to be basketball or pickleball?
So the applicant will get up and respond to the questions that are
Okay.
raised during the public comments, and he'll answer that question.
Okay, because the vagueness in the documents that you presented made me a little concerned. Noise pollution is more and more a problem in our area. So noise from the court is the first concern. The risk of lights being added at any time after the court. Right now it's declared that it's an unilluminated court. Will it remain that way? Because already we have some problems with light pollution in our neighborhood. I would add that the diminishing green spaces in our neighborhood are a bit of a problem. and the continued loss of wildlife habitat, I would like to put on record, which is occurring. That project at 5605 Kenmore began with the clear cutting of the woods that existed on the residential lot. That was prior to the home being built. It has been a long, arduous process, very noisy for all the neighbors. And you know, the ungreening of this lot will be amplified and made more injurious, if you will, by the addition of a large concrete slab, 32 by 51 feet. It reduces the size of the yard of the Greenlands, and that's an area where wildlife had previously gathered and found a safe haven. And there's also a pond right next to it. And I thought I don't know what the laws require in terms of wetlands, but the pond has a lot of turtles, a lot of wildlife. And so that is a concern for me. So my request today is that with all these exceptions, we adopt a bit of a big picture approach. It seems like a simple request. It's 1 yard. But when you multiply this times many, it becomes more and more of a concern. I would say a big picture approach will allow us to say no. Answering no will preserve our green spaces, add oxygen into the environment, provide shelter for wildlife, and protect us from hot summer temperatures. Everybody's talking about the need to plant more trees. Instead, in this lot, they clear-cut the lot. A big picture approach allows us to set priorities for the preservation of old trees, greenery, and wildlife, rather than adding a big block of cement in a yard already much smaller than it was before this large home was built. The landscape plans show that very little green area will be preserved going right up to the pond. That concerns me. A big picture approach permits us to recognize that we usually are only enthralled with our gym memberships for just a few months or years, and then we stop going. We stop playing basketball, pickleball, tennis, or whatever, but the cement and the concrete remains. A big picture approach underscores the importance of maintaining a quality of life for everyone in the neighborhood so that we can have dinner outdoors in nice weather, easily talk and visit without the ping-ping of pickleball or noises that belong more in a gymnasium, on sport courts of more spacious country clubs, or in a schoolyard. In a suburban neighborhood where homes are so closely located to one another, freedom from noise should be protected. A big picture approach can only bring us to refuse this request for yet another exception, for yet another exceptional person. This is not community. Community and a big picture approach permit us to value the whole over the part. It encourages us to see the long-term negative effects of such an exception for a short-lived pleasure by just one family. If they can build a pickleball court or a multi-sport court in their backyard, then I would suggest that perhaps they join a country club or, go to some group club where they can practice their sport without disturbing neighbors. We all value our downtime, our family time, our time to commune with the nature around us. I also really value the animals that live amongst us.
So I've let you go on quite a bit. Are you about ready to wrap up?
I
'Cause
am.
I think we
I
get
am.
the theme. It's kind of we understand. So
Sorry?
Is there any additional point that's new that you want to make to wrap up?
My last point is that I speak on behalf of all of these creatures that live there. The fox, the deer, the raccoon, the opossums, the turkeys, the herons, all the wildlife, the turtles, that I can assure you don't want the courts there. and want that area protected. And I'm concerned about the eyesore of the mesh fence. And so supposedly some trees have been planted. I haven't checked it out recently. So that would certainly help.
So that's the landscape plan there.
Yeah, is that the only greenery? Is that rim around there? And I thought that the courts were located, I thought it mentioned on the north side of the lot. But that looks, is the north at the top? So that's the south. The south is the pond, but which corner of the land portion of that
I think
interior?
it's right about here.
Okay. Well, that's pretty far from me. So I'm glad of that. However, there are lots of families there that are busy with young children that couldn't come out tonight that I hope won't be disturbed by the noise. I hope that they can do something, that it's not pickleball, and that they can do something to minimize the noise. And I don't really feel that one row of trees will do that job. So that's my opinion.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? Yeah, I'll call the applicant back up to address the comments from the two members of the public that have
Try to
spoken.
answer everything. First off, it's set up for a basketball court, so there's no intent right now for a pickleball court at all. There's no net that I know of planned or anything like that. There's no lights planned, and if there are lights added, that would be going against the ordinance, and I'm sure code enforcement would come out and tell
Yeah,
them
you'd have to
remove
come back here to get lights, and you'd have to get the structure.
we were not involved in the clear cutting of the lot, so I don't know anything about that. I'm sure that's all goes with through the building department. There's an okay.
So the public comments closed, so you can't speak from the audience anymore. Apologize for that.
And we've already planted the evergreen trees along the back of the property, so even tomorrow you can go out and see. They're even extended further up to the road. So we already added additional trees beyond what's shown now.
Do you want to point where you've added additional trees for the board?
Use that one.
All along this is all treed here. This is all artificial turf area. This is a 25-foot setback from the pond that's already maintained from the ordinance that we have to follow already. So there's a green buffer here of natural, it'll be lawn essentially, and then natural environment. And then we're already working with the owner to do native plantings and working with Eagle to do pond cleanup and to promote the pond as well. So, but this is, even though this shows green here, this is extensive landscaping all through this whole entire area and around the back area as well. I think that.
Any other questions from the board of the applicant? All right, then discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion. I'll start with the permission request first. I move that the motion approve the permission request in regards to the appeal at 5605 Kenmore Road for the accessory structure of a sports court as well, the sports court. I move that the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with Section 42-7.6 standards because the use of an accessory structure is appropriate for the neighborhood for these types of homes. And the location of the accessory structure will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of the property because it's heavily screened. And in reference to the dimensional variance for the fencing, I move that that also be approved in regard to the same appeal at 5605 Kenmore Road. I move that the variance be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the, without the actual netting, it would prevent the reasonable use of the accessory structure. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. Again, it's heavily screened and they have made sure that that complies and they actually enhance the screening. The unique circumstances with the property, the location of the fencing, because of the existing floor plan, that's probably the best location for it to be. And because of that, it is not self-created. If approved, the motion also includes applications for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction. The use of the sports court is limited to daytime hours, and there is no illumination permitted for the sports court.
Support.
So I have motion and support. Any discussion? And I'll just, point out for those who commented that as a condition of this approval, use of the sports courts limited to daylight hours and illumination is prohibited. So that is a condition of the approval. So all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
Calling next item, item 2, 1343 Lake Crescent Drive. You could state your name and address and the reasons for the request.
Yep, David Lawrence, 1343 Lake Crescent Drive. Apologies, my drawing's not as good as theirs. We are seeking approval for a 7-foot high privacy fence located in our rear yard around our patio. We're requesting the privacy fencing in order to help prevent excessive noise and provide us with privacy on our patio and views from within our home. We purchased our house in 2018 in large part due to our backyard, and over the years we've had neighbors put in a number of play structures and trampolines close to our property line. So we have a large 14-foot high by 14-foot diameter trampoline directly to the east of our property and patio. We have numerous kids playing on there quite frequently. They're pretty loud, so we're looking for this to give some privacy and help block some of the noise. We had asked for the play structure to be moved and the trampoline to be moved to the other side of the yard where there were no homes, but were denied by our neighbor. So we're requesting this variance for privacy as well as noise reduction. We don't believe this provides any injustice to our neighbors, as we received approval from all neighbors within sightline and approval from our HOA. We believe the unique circumstances impacting our ability to enjoy our yard is due to the layout of our backyard with our neighbors, and creates multiple kind of backyards pointing towards ours, and structures that have been put up in adjoining yards since we purchased the home. We've had several landscaping companies come out about putting trees around the property line, but due to some large maples we have in there, it blocks the sun and doesn't allow us to grow kind of along the property line there.
Any questions from the board?
Well, I just have one question. So, since they told you that about the trees, then that would mean that you can't put trees around the perimeter of your fence.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried planting stuff there, but a lot of stuff does die because we don't have great sunlight coming through. And also the maples, the roots are very close to the top of the grass. So we tried doing grass seed and stuff and other plants, and it just kind of doesn't take.
Thank you.
What is the height of the existing fence?
It's 7 feet at the highest. It is a little bit on a grade, so it's lower at one side, and to keep it level, it goes up to height of 7 foot on the highest side.
So part of the request is to extend that fence?
No extent. That's it. So
Okay.
there's no addition to that.
Okay.
Typically with fences like this, they're screened from the outside, so they're not visible to the public. Do you have any ideas of how you could do that?
No, like I said, the other plants we've tried putting in that area don't really take.
I had seen in the past maybe some green ivy of such that could be growing on fences. Maybe just an idea of how to screen.
Yeah, we thought about that, so we can definitely do that.
Does it need to be 7 feet?
Yeah, because again, we have that large trampoline that's directly to the right of that. So basically, where I'm taking that photo, where you can see it, it's about 3 or 4 feet behind me, and it's 14 feet high. And the patio is sunken down because we have a quad. So you can see in that first picture to the left, the lower level is a little bit below ground. So when you come out into our patio, it's a little bit lower. So having a very tall structure close to the patio, we need a high fence. So we cut it as low as we could to still block that and have that view.
Because typically we don't approve fences of this height. And if we do, they're screened. So there's 2 obstacles here. So I don't know. Anybody else has any other questions I want to ask before I open up for the public hearing? But
Describe to me the topography at the rear of the house. If it's a quad, then you have a level under the bedrooms. Basements typically under the main
under the
floor,
cabin,
so that's where you get the quad. So you've got floor that is under the bedrooms. Typically, it's a family room, half bath, laundry perhaps.
Have you been in our house?
No, I haven't actually. I don't
been in
think,
hundreds
I don't
like-
think I have.
Yeah,
been in
that's
hundreds
the
like-
setup. Yeah.
Is the patio at the grade in the front, or is it the patio at the grade in the rear? So in other words, if is the patio off the family room?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's down.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. How much of a rise do you have from that lower level to the main area of the backyard? 3-4 feet?
Yeah, about that.
Okay. I guess my observation is for where the if this is on the main level of this is on the main level of the ground, it probably wouldn't need to be that high. If it's down in the valley, so to speak, it would need to be that high. And frankly, if you were coming to us asking where you could, if you could do this, we would have probably made that suggestion. So I mean,
when you walk off the patio,
Yeah.
This is basically in like all the wood chips that we had before. So like in the landscaping around it. So it is in the lower area. I don't know if you can really see it from that picture, but it does start to grade up essentially right from there.
Yeah, I guess 7 feet high. Had it been placed a little bit further back from the patio, you could have had it visually as high, but structurally not as high. And that's where you're probably going to have difficulty with my colleagues here on the panel. I don't know what everybody else's feelings are, but based on where it is today, in order to create the privacy he needs, 7 feet probably matters. If it was back on the upper part of that valley where patio is,
Is there any way you can screen
4
it?
feet would have worked. It's probably in cement.
Just from our experience with putting stuff in that area and also other spots of our yard around the maples, nothing really survives there. I didn't touch that.
We lose that once a meeting. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Wasn't me.
All right, so I'll let the board think of it. I'll open this to the public. Does anyone here like to comment on this item?
Well, she wouldn't need to be there under public comment.
What's that?
She wouldn't need to be there under public comment.
No. All right, so let me close the public comment, and I'll let you speak briefly if you feel your husband hasn't covered all the points that you coached him to cover. So I'll close the public comment, and you can come up, and I'll give you a brief addendum.
I just wanted to clear up, because I know what you guys were saying about being able to pull it. One of the main things is from inside of our house, so from our master bedroom, our master bathroom, our kitchen, and our dining room, because if you can see that 5308 is on that angle. When that trampoline got put up, if I'm sitting at my dining room table, I have a straight view to the trampoline. And same thing with all the other rooms inside our house. So yes, the patio is nice and important, but for me, the most important thing is that from all windows in the back of our house, because of the way the houses are angled, we just stare at the trampoline. And like he had said, we have asked multiple times to please move it, adjust it, to find a way that we weren't from inside of our house looking out, because like outside, I'm not happy with it, but I can deal with it. But from like the inside of my house and my master bedroom and all those rooms, it's the only place we could place it. And as far as moving it back, it's very close to that property line. So I think we wouldn't have an opportunity to move it back because I know, you know, it needs to be a certain amount off of the property line. And moving it any bit, I would be afraid would encroach too much close to 5308.
Thank you for those additional facts.
Yeah, thank you.
Does the board have any other questions?
Would you be open to screening? I mean, I've
He's
said
raised
it
a
3
good point with
times.
the setback.
Ivy, anything,
Yeah, I mean, we can put ivy in there.
anything,
And
arborvitae.
you've got a couple different versions of ivy. You've got one that'll climb to the moon and another one that'll go up not so high.
Yeah, we can do some ivy, and we'll try to put that in there and see if that survives.
And
No problem with that.
I've got enough in my yard to know that it'll grow sun or shade.
That's good.
Yeah, if there's just some way to soften, right, at 7, you know, if there's even like,
It'll just take time.
yeah, pots or something to, that's a pretty,
Once the ivy takes, it'll cover it.
The ivy,
in 3
okay.
years.
well then, if you guys have some well thought out, effective motion that balance all of the interests that we've heard here this evening effectively to help the homeowner with the need for privacy and the need for the community for, you know,
Mr. Chairman,
reasonable fence sizes.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the request for dimensional variance at 1343 Lake Crescent Drive, I'm going to move that the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant has demonstrated all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance is unduly burdensome because they do have a right to privacy in their backyard, and other than cutting down mature maples or moving a fence into the side yard setback, which is probably more onerous than its current height, since nobody from the subdivision is here on this. I would suggest that this is not, that compliance is in fact unduly burdensome. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. I'm certain that while their children are playing, they would just as soon not see them have some privacy as well. And again, we don't have neighbors being concerned about this. Unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated. You've got some topography issues and you've got some side yard setback issues that come into play, neither of which are self-created by the homeowner. So with that having been said, I'm going to add that application for all necessary permits must be made within 5 business days for the existing fence, and that they will add a climbing ivy that will be green 12 months out of the year.
Second, support.
I have a motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Your request is granted. Happy ivy growing. So let's call the next item. Item 3, 863 Eastover.
Good evening. My name is James Nelson from 863 Eastover Drive. I'd like to begin by simply apologizing to the board for even having this item on your agenda this evening. It is a mistake on my part in communication, as I thought we had done everything correctly and in compliance with township requirements during the build out of our home in 2018 and 2019. We worked very closely with the building department during that time, submitted multiple plans for approval, as well as going through the rebuild and inspection process for remodel. although we ran into some early issues, which caused us to change contractors and the general contractor that was on the permit, we did reapply for new permits appropriately and followed all guidelines accordingly. The mistake, I thought, was that the pad for the shed and the permit for the shed was covered within the permitting process that we had submitted originally, and apparently I was later informed it wasn't. We've since submitted permits. We've put together screening. We've complied with all of the setbacks per the building department and township, and have tried to comply with everything requested in the permitting process, albeit after the fact. So it's my request that the board consider my permit for approval to proceed with the shed that's already erected.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any questions from the board? I'll just observe that your contrite and very effective apology, I think, is a result of a lot of practice you've had over your life, both with teachers, teammates, and classmates. So thank you. That was very heartfelt and very well done.
Thank you.
Due to probably a lot of practice in your life. So I'll open this to the public hearing. Do you have something, okay, since you'd like to?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Story. I live at 3681 Forest Hill Drive. I live next door to Mr. and Mrs. Nelson. I just wanted to say that the shed is certainly no burden on us. It's well screened from our view. He's, erected about as beautiful a shed as you can. It matches the house perfectly, fits the neighborhood perfectly. So we just want to voice the fact that we have no objection at all.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak on this? Okay.
My name is Fred Sherry. I live directly behind the Nelsons. Beg pardon?
Your address,
Your
please.
name and address?
3661 Forest Hill Drive.
Thank you.
The house, the whole property was run down. The house was built in 56, 57. The Nelsons came in, have done a wonderful job with the property and the house. The shed is a bad word, I think, but this outbuilding is very beautiful. It's enclosed. That's not the best view of it, but and so I'm directly behind that house. So I'm definitely approving of the shed and all the work they've done to improve this property. It's been, terrific.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Brad Dix, 858 Dowling, and I have the front elevation off of my front porch. That's my view on the left. I wasn't there when they built the shed, but it's a beautiful sed. And to me, in the backyard,
these are the most glowing testimonies we've ever had for a shed.
it seems to meet all the guidelines that I would expect the shed to have. So, if I were to be voting on whether he had to move it or change it or tear it down, I'd say keep it. It's a nice looking shed, well done, well detailed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to give a testimonial about the quality of the shed? Well, you can see him after the hearing. Give you good prices. All right, so I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
So with regard to the permission request at 863 Eastover Drive, For the accessory structure, the beautiful shed, I move the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards because the location of the accessory structure will not hinder nor discourage adjacent use of property due to the fact you have glowing reviews from your neighbors and the location of it. So if approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits to be made within 5 business days for this shed. Additional evergreen screening may be required to screen it from public view, but I think it's pretty good as it is.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations. Your request is granted.
Thank you.
Done a good job of schmoozing the neighbors for sure. I don't think we've ever had 3 neighbors show up to say they loved it.
No one has ever
Yeah.
spoken so highly of a shed in the
Hard to
history
follow the nicest shed in Bloomfield, but
of Bloomfield Township. He could have a consulting business on shed construction.
and happy neighbors too.
All right, so this is the item number 4, parcel 1908476003.
Yeah, I'm Mike Vlasic. I live at 1211 Club Drive, and I'm on the homeowners representative on the Property Owners Association. And I just want to make a clarification on the actual, the way this is written. It says seeking approval to add fill to allow for the construction of a boat ramp. The boat ramp exists, and it's existed for many years. Okay. So it's really adding fill to maintain the ramp. And so this ramp was constructed many years ago, and it's the ramp. It's the only boat launch ramp on Lower Long Lake, and it's the ramp that all the residents use to launch and retrieve their boats, as well as to put in the weed harvesting equipment and the people that test the water quality. And what happens is, as it rains, the rain runs off the part that's on the grade and into the water and erodes the ramp. And so the ramp has become unsafe. It's not straight and flat anymore. And as you launch a boat, it's very irregular and it's becoming worse as it rains. And so what our suggestion is, our hope is to put crushed concrete in. We have received all the permits from the state agency and the Oakland County, and this is the outlot is owned by the Property Owners Association. That's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? I'll open this up to the public. Is anyone here that'd like to comment? Now, don't you want to come? Yeah, come on up and comment. You yeah. Well, you well, you have to get to the podium, okay, and give us your name and address. Yep. We have to be in the record.
Club Drive.
Okay.
Longtime president, 25 years. I'm the guy that purchased the outlot, and I've maintained it for 25 years. And frankly, I'm kind of stunned that we're here, because I wouldn't have thought that this would have been a ZBA issue. But nevertheless, it's really an issue of safety. People, and unless you're a riparian or you own a boat and you use a public launch site, you can't appreciate how difficult it is to get your boat in and out of the water. And as Mike pointed out, the water, the rain, the runoff has a deleterious effect. But more importantly, the weed harvesters, which are, my boat and trailer are about 800 pounds, which is very light. The weed harvesters are about 2.5 tons. They take their toll, and that makes it very dangerous for the rest of us to get our boats in and out on that launch site. So this is simply remedial, every couple of years maintenance on the site. And I would hope that you folks could see your way through to approve that so that we can maintain safe operations of the Lower Long Lake launch site on East Point Lane. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Does anyone else like to speak on this? I'll close the public hearing. How much fill is going to be added?
Is the contractor here?
It's about 6.
Yeah, I'm going to get him to give the exact answer.
Go ahead.
And how do you determine how much is needed?
Ken Lunsford, Advanced Lakefront Services. So what was the question?
How much fill will be added, and how do you determine how much is needed?
The amount of fill is 1.9 cubic yards, and that's dictated by the pitch, the proper pitch that the approach has to be on. Let me clarify an issue. The
5-10 yards.
This is stating that we are seeking fill in the 25-foot natural feature zone, and the fill is encroaching 25 feet into the natural feature zone, but accurately it's only encroaching 12. The approach is only 12 foot from the high water mark landward, which is only 12 foot into the natural feature zone. And within that 12 foot, we're only encompassing about 2 yards of fill.
Okay.
The approach on a boat ramp is necessary for the vehicles to be able to get traction for ingress and egress off of a boat ramp, especially when we're constructing this ramp to accommodate harvesters. If the approach isn't there, more than likely the harvesters are going to get stuck spinning their wheels trying to get the watercraft in and out of the water or their equipment. So to answer your question, 2 yards.
And how I guess it depends on the use, but how long would that be good for? How long do you have to replace, put more fill in?
Well, you can see that these are precast concrete slabs, excuse me. So will last my lifetime.
Okay. All right.
So there'll be no maintenance on that.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Thanks very much.
Sure.
You may come in. Discussion or a motion?
No, this is easy. Mr.
I'll make a.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion. Get my glasses. I'd like to make a motion to approve the dimensional variance in regards to the appeal at the parcel 19080476-003 for the additional fill into the natural feature setback. I move that the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty. Because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome, because without the backfill, it would prevent the safe use of the dock. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. Actually, this would be for the benefit of everyone who utilizes it from a safety perspective. The unique circumstances of the property, because of the uniqueness that it erodes over time from the water runoff, that this is a necessary maintenance issue. And because of that, it is not self-created. If approved, the motion also includes application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year. And all permits must be obtained prior to construction.
Support.
I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Calling the next item, item 51351 Kirkway.
My name is Adam Marcial from Gethsemane Landscaping on behalf of the homeowners at 1351 Kirkway. We're requesting a natural feature setback variance to construct a seawall along Island Lake. Seawall plan has been approved and a permit issued by the Michigan Department of Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy, also known as EGLE. The permit was sent to the Bloomfield Township Clerk's office. The deputy clerk notified us that the natural feature setback variance was needed and needed to be approved prior to construction.
Thanks very much. Any questions from the board? Open the public hearing. Anyone like to comment on the seawall? Close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for questions or a motion.
I just had one question. Do you know neighboring properties there, do they have seawalls also?
Their neighboring seawall, yeah, it's like a boulder seawall to the north and then a steel seawall further.
So they both do have
They
one?
do.
Okay. Thank you.
What's the material again?
It's like a slab limestone and
Okay.
boulders.
Yeah.
So typically I'm opposed to seawalls.
Yes, you are. That's
The-
you should make the motion
But
then.
since the neighbors also
Yes.
have it, that can erode.
This would be a first for you.
Or shoreline,
Yes.
so-
The house faces due west. so
Yes,
there's
this
a lot
would be a
of
good
erosion.
motion.
Yeah. Okay, this is, what number was this? Number 5?
Number 5, yeah.
Okay, number 5.
You're a little out of practice with this type of motion, so
Let's
that's
see.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Seawall.
Okay, so for the dimensional variance at, what's the address here? 1351 Kirkway Road. I move that it be approved as requested, the seawall. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all the standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because there could be additional erosion at the home without the seawall. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors by reason of the fact that the neighbors also have seawalls there. At that shoreline, the unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated, again, given its location on the lake and the neighboring homes with the seawalls. And this is not self-created due to the reasons stated above. And I will just add that all necessary permits have to be made within 1 year and should be obtained prior to construction.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. On the next item, item 6, 850 Harsdale.
Again.
You're back. Okay.
Still Stephen Bonamy from Creative Brick. On behalf of the owners, 850 Harsdale. Tonight we're seeking approval to install a swim spa and deck. The proposed deck provides easy access to the spa, which are located in the rear yard. The backyard slopes up away from the house, and existing vegetation is along the perimeter of the property, which greatly shields the items from view. The property does contain a pool, but the owner intends to use the spa year-round for physical therapy and exercise. We feel there's no objection based on the standard conditions of the ordinance, and we're simply asking for permission for the use of the accessory items.
Thanks very much. Any questions from the board? I'll open it to the public. Anyone like to comment on this item? Close the public hearing. Back to the board for discussion. Motion?
I can make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
In regard to the appeal at 850 Harsdale Road, for the accessory structure, I move that the request be approved and submitted based on information presented. The applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards based on the fact that the accessory structure will not hinder or discourage adjacent property due to the fact that it's within setbacks and you can't really see it from the neighbors.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Next item, item 7. 1120 Ashover.
I'm Jennifer Skazorek. I'm representing my dad, Frank Uncle, and we're asking for approval on an existing pergola that's in our rear yard that meets all the height and setback requirements, and we have already received approval from our home owners association.
Thanks very much. It's nice of you to help your dad. Any questions from the board? I'll open the public hearing for this. Anyone that would like to comment? Close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for discussion. Motion? Pergola? Pretty straightforward.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the permission request at 1120 Ashover Drive, I would move that the permission request be approved as submitted based on the information presented. The applicant to demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. The location of the accessory structure will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property because of its location or its use. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 5 business days for the existing pergola, and I do not believe that evergreen screening is required.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Calling the next item, item 8, 1365 Ashover.
Hello, my name's Adam Kapar. I live at 1365 Ashover Drive. I built a shed in the backyard of my property. It's like a $700 shed. Didn't think anyone would care. And I apparently got a complaint. So yeah, I just want to maintain that shed.
So do you remember what Mr. Nelson said at the start of his presentation? Okay. All right. That's okay. Any questions from the board?
So I guess my only question is, so you received the violation, neighbors can see it then? It's not screened from
I guess so.
public view?
It can be screened.
It can be?
Yeah. So if you see where that garbage can is in that picture,
Mm-hmm.
I could plant some trees there and you will not see it.
Okay. So any questions from the board? So I'll open the public hearing for this item. Anyone like to speak? Close the public hearing. We're back to the board for discussion or a motion.
I can make a motion for
Okay,
this.
very good.
So with regard to this permission request at 1365 Ashover Drive, I move that it be approved as submitted. It does, based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards because the location of the accessory structure is within the setbacks, and I am going to include that it should be screened in my approval, and so that screening will also add to no hindrance to the adjacent neighbors. And because it's already existing, you have to get the permits within 5 business days, and the you'll have to put the additional evergreen screening up as well, so that it's not, so that the public cannot see it, and that should be 12 months out of the year.
Okay.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Calling the next item, item 92364 Mulberry. Calling 2364 Mulberry for a pergola.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that this be put to the back of the agenda.
Support. All right, so I have a motion and support to postpone to the end of the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will postpone that. Calling item 10, 7176 Lindenmere. Is the applicant here for item 10, 7176 Lindenmere?
Mr. Chairman, I will move that this item be put to the back of the agenda.
Support.
A motion to move to the agenda and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We move item 10 to the back. Calling item 11. 2434 Bratton.
We have a winner.
Shed.
We have a winner. We're back on track.
Good evening, everybody. It's AJ Shimami, 2434 Bratton Avenue. It's more, I already got actually approval for the shed. It's more a correction. I came in back in July. The height, I miss. There's lack of diligence on my part. It's 12 feet, including the slope. As you can see from the picture, like there's a big drop off from the back of the shed to the front. So I didn't take that into account when I was giving the height of the shed. So the total height from the very bottom, the lowest point to the highest point is 12 feet. So that it's just a correction on.
He's got a 3-foot slope.
3-foot slope, okay. Any questions on the board?
No.
Open this to the public. Anyone that would like to comment on the correction?
Notice is that it's 11 feet.
Because if you look at the graphic right there, it's 10.5.
It's 10 point. The shed itself is 10.5, but when I talked to the when I was like reapplying, they said like it's from the lowest point of
The
the
grade
ground.
change,
From the
okay.
grade change. So I just to
Okay.
cover everything, I just put 12 because it drops off from the back to the front by 12.5.
The shed
So
itself.
the lowest point of the ground is
11.
It's yes.
More is always better in the notice.
Yeah, that's
More is better.
Isn't that? Yeah, that's. I mean, I had the 10 by 12 by
Yeah,
12.
but we're clarifying.
Yeah.
So that the clarification that you requested could be perfectly clear.
Is that it's 11-foot shed.
We've only noticed for 11-foot shed, so if the applicant is asking for
Okay,
a
I
12-foot
understand. I
shed,
understand what you're saying. I apologize.
you have to table it to the next meeting.
I just the 12, I just combined everything into one. I apologize.
Okay, so you need to explain to the board if it's an 11-foot shed.
Okay, the shed itself is 10.5 feet. The total height from the top of the shed to the ground is 12. My apologies. I'm sorry. I was taking into account total height of the front to the ground to cover. They said it was 14 from the ground up. So I just wanted to make sure I was covered.
But the notice is correct.
Right. The shed is 10.5
Yeah. It's
feet.
10.5, so yes, it covers 11. Yes.
And because you're here for clarification, we want to be
Yes.
sure everybody.
I apologize. Sorry about that.
But we're good, or no?
Application of it.
Patty, are we good or not? We got to renotice it?
We have to renotice it. You have to measure from grade, and if he's telling us that by measuring at grade, at the lowest point, it's greater than
Okay, it's 12.
11 feet,
Okay.
then it has to be renoticed. If it's gonna be measured at grade and the overall height is 11 feet, then it's been noticed properly.
But it's 12.
But I thought you said you added a cushion to get it. What is the dimension from the lowest point at grade to the top?
The
of the
lowest
shed?
point at grade is 12.
Okay, well then we got to renotice it.
All right.
Move to table.
Now, it has to be renoticed entirely, doesn't it?
Well, we always renotice, so it
Yeah.
could be, it'll be renoticed accordingly and put on the next
So
agenda.
just remove.
And the shed is up.
Well, yeah, because I realized once I put it up.
Yes, so we're
What about the position? of the shed?
correcting.
Yeah.
No
Again,
issue, no issue.
the notice.
We need a
Okay.
motion for that.
What's that?
It's
Need a motion to
inside
table
the
it?
setbacks.
Yes, there has to be a motion to table.
Yeah,
it.
motion
I
to
move to
table.
table this
And
item.
renotice it.
Approaching
And renotice to the-
into the setback.
So
All in favor?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to come back.
8 feet at the required.
You know what, you've got,
Wasn't clear. Well,
The motion out
There's
here.
mo-
We have a vote on the motion to table.
I took the night based on that.
So do we have a second?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
so Patty,
Yes,
the notice says that there's an 8-foot encroachment into the 16-foot northerly side yard setback. That's a dimensional
that
variance,
is correct.
but it's only asking for a permission request.
Well, that's based on those are our chief notes to you. But if you read it, it actually speaks to the,
Okay, so we would need to pass both a permission request and a request for a dimensional
exactly,
variance.
the notice is actually correct.
All right, notice is
Read notes
correct.
to you.
The notes
red
are-
notes
Looking
are
at it.
Understand,
Got it,
thank you.
okay. That's okay, we'll
Got
clean it up next time. We apologize. We'll see you in December.
What happened this
Oh, what
It's
a
a lovely
great
looking
lyric
shed.
for a song.
Oh, oh, oh.
See you.
See you in December.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. That's too bad. Calling item number 12. 1411 Lockridge.
Hi, good evening. My name is Patrick Zaremba, and I'm here from Zaremba and Company to represent Dr. and Alyssa Jacobs at 1411 Lockridge. We're here to seek approval for an address marker wall that's 18 foot long and 4 foot at the highest point. We're here to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Open this to the public. Anyone like to comment on it? Close public hearing, bring it back to the board. Straightforward. Address marker.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the request for permission for a dimensional variance and the permission request at 1411 Lockridge, dealing with the permission request first, I would move that the request be approved as submitted based on the information presented. The applicant has demonstrated compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. The location of the accessory structure will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property due to the placement of the marker and the address wall. Frankly, it will probably reduce some incorrect people, or some people incorrectly turning into the wrong property, which actually is an improvement for the community, I'm sure. With that having been said, let me move to the dimensional variance, which is necessary again because of the topography of the property. So with regard to the height and height of the variance, I would move that it be height and location of the variance. I would move that it be approved as requested based on the information presented. Applicant has demonstrated all the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the topography of the property. There is no injustice to the, and the fact that if you're going to put an address marker someplace, you got to put it where they can read it. So it needs to be in the front yard. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors for the reasons that I have stated. Again, the ease of identifying the property. Unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated. Again, you need to be able to see this thing. You can't see it if you put it in the backyard. And that certainly is not self-created. So with that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year. All permits must be obtained prior to construction.
Support. Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. On the next item, item 13, 1239 Forbes.
So I'm George Gross, and I'm here representing Dr. Myers for location of a generator.
All right. Any questions from the board on the generator?
Says the owner of the property is D. Button.
I'm sorry?
It says in here that the owner of the property is D. Button.
You're a contractor
I'm a
representing?
contractor.
Okay, all right.
He's the contractor.
Township for about 40 years.
Any other questions? Open this for the public. Anyone that'd like to comment, please step forward, state your name and address.
My name is Robert Lysecki. I live at 5135 North Bell Court.
You can stand at the microphone so that you're not shouting.
Just two comments. I'm wearing two hats. One, I'm representing the board of the HOA. The board has reviewed this plan. We're okay. Second hat is I'm within the 500-foot circle, so I was notified of this generator and the deviation. I would just say I have a generator about 100 feet from my house in a different lot. So, I mean, I'm totally okay with the generator.
You're giving a double endorsement then.
I am.
In the political season, the double endorsement's a rare bird, so thank you for the double endorsement.
That's it, thank you.
Okay. So anyone else like to speak on it? Close public hearing. So I don't know that we have to have a response to that. Any discussion or?
I just am wondering, can it be seen from a public view, the generator?
I'm sorry?
Can it be seen from the public view, or is
No.
it screened?
No, it's in the back, and there's a lot of vegetation, a lot of heavy trees. You
Okay.
can't see it from the road, and the neighbor next to it can hardly see it because they got a fenced-in swimming pool next to it.
Okay, I'm ready to make a motion. If
Okay,
nobody
thanks
has
very
anything
much.
else to say. Okay, so with regard to the appeal at 1339 Forbes Drive for the generator, the dimensional variance, I'm encroaching into the side yard setback. I move that it be approved as requested based on information presented. The applicant did demonstrate all the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the electrical hookup and where the house is situated on the lot. Where the generator is placed makes the most sense safety-wise. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors by reason of the fact that it is heavily screened. There are unique circumstances with the property, again, given the home situation on the lot and the electrical hookups. This is not self-created due to the reasons stated above. All necessary permits should be made within 1 year and obtained prior to installation. And I'll just note, in the event something changes on that property and it's no longer screened, it should be screened 12 months out of the year with evergreens. Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Request is granted.
Guys, have a good evening.
Polls are closed. And this just in, the polls are closed. So taking on item 14, 4560 Cherokee Lane.
Good evening, Matt Mosier, representing the homeowners at 4560 Cherokee Lane. This request is for a sport court that is located along the rear property line. Pretty straightforward request. There are no neighbors directly behind the court and no neighbors facing the court. We do have significant evergreens proposed around the court, and everything else is in compliance. We are asking for a 6-foot tall mesh backstop, and it will not be illuminated.
So are those the evergreens that are proposed on either side there?
Yeah,
or is
there's
there
some
more?
spade trees going in.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Open this to the public. Anyone like to comment? Close public hearing, bring it back to the board. Board's court.
I'll make the motion. I'll start with the permission request first. I'd like to make a motion to approve the permission request in regards to the appeal at 4560 Cherokee Lane for the accessory structure of a proposed sports court. I move that the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. Because the use of accessory structure is appropriate to the neighborhood. This is a very usual structure for the neighborhood. In regard to the dimensional variance that's required for the fencing or netting that's exceeding 4 feet, I also move that that be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because without, again, the 6-foot netting would prevent the reasonable use of the accessory structure. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors because it is heavily screened, and they're also putting additional screening, as well as there's really not many adjacent neighbors. The unique circumstances of the property, again, of the existing layout of the property, that they are actually locating the sports court in the most appropriate spot on the lot, and it is not self-created. If approved, the motion also includes application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction. Just remember the use of the sports court is limited to daytime hours, and there is no illumination permitted for the sports court.
Support. Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Item 15, 4750 Cimarron Drive.
Hello, my name is Patrick Ong at 4750 Cimarron. My soon-to-be wife has just moved from Houston to
Congratulations.
Detroit. Thank you very much. But I've also
A little
inherited-
cooler here.
I'm sorry?
Little cooler here.
Yeah, much cooler. And I've inherited 3 dogs. And we're proposing to have a fence. Our backyard, we have a huge front yard, but our backyard is relatively small. So I'm asking that we get a variance to go, there's a 25-foot setback with a dog containment. Behind our yard are 14 to 16 foot high arborvitaes that will block the entire fence. And just asking for your approval.
Thanks very much. Any questions from the board?
What does your side yard look like? How much space is there?
There's at least 100 feet from the left and right setbacks.
Thank you.
A lot of width, but no depth.
Any other questions from the board? I'll open this to the public. Anyone who'd like to comment on this item? Close public hearing. Bring it back to the board. For the dog enclosure.
Seems, so let me understand, this is going right up to the lot line.
We're proposing like 2 feet back from the evergreens.
Just so the board, we have the same thing for the next item.
Do we typically allow it that close to the property line?
Well, the ordinance requires 25 feet. So anything less than that would have to come to the township or to the ZBA for approval.
And
I think
if
you've got, I think you've,
determine we
Yes,
need
he's
to have-
encroaching into
yeah,
the.
you've got some rather unique circumstances on the property. Not only the lack of depth based on the placement of the home, but you've also got 2 frontages. So in theory, there's no rear yard to even speak of. So yeah, I suppose however you want to configure it, the house is probably 30 to 40 feet from the rear lot line. Doesn't give you much room for much of anything. So with that, I'm going to consider making a motion unless you'd like some more discussion.
Is everybody kind of clear? Because I had asked a lot of questions about this. A lot where the fence is going.
Yeah, if the house was facing the side, if the house was facing the court, you would then have a much larger rear yard and you wouldn't have the issue. But
it wouldn't be as close to
because
the
of
line.
yeah, because of the placement, you don't have much of a choice. You walk out the back patio, or the back door, you're in somebody's you're in the neighbor's yard.
Can you talk to your neighbor about it?
The home has been for sale for probably 4 to 5 months now.
Okay.
So they don't like it whether there's a dog containment fence there or not. Okay, permission request. Mr. Chairman, with regard to the permission request at, wrong page, 4750 Cimarron, I am going to move that the permission request be approved as submitted based on the information presented the applicant to demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. Location of the accessory structure will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property. With the evergreen screening in place, unless you peek around the side, you won't even know it's there. With that having been said, and moving on to the dimensional variance, I'm going to move that the dimensional variance be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the placement of the home and the lack of depth in the rear yard. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors because this has been moderated with the already planted evergreens. Unique circumstances of the property have been discussed and demonstrated because due to the, again, lack of depth out across the back of the property, which certainly is not something that is self-created by the property owner. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year. All permits must be obtained prior to installation. The evergreen screening that is needed for the rear yard variance has already been installed.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Oh, she knows her dogs. Oh, wow. That's news to him.
He's very happy about that.
Wow. I don't think we saved a marriage with a variance. What a historic night. What a historic night this has been.
They're not married
We
yet.
had the world's best shed.
That's the trick.
And we saved a marriage with a variance.
Right.
That's right.
Put that on your resume. Okay. Item 16, 4237 Antique Lane.
Good evening. I don't have a beautiful shed to talk about, but we have an existing invisible fence. It existed with the home when we moved in, which is actually one of the reasons why we bought it, which is why when we had them come out and trace the wire, they said it was broken in so many places it would have to be replaced. We didn't think anything of it and just had them come on out and replace it. And while he was digging it, code enforcement came out and said, yeah, I need a permit for this. I said, oh, okay. So I came down, I got the permits. Can you look at the picture that shows more of the landscaping? So apparently they looked it up and the original invisible fence was never permitted. So we're applying for the permit, but then also a variance for where he put it in, and you kind of defer to their expertise. But with the one side of the house, on the north side of the house, can you show where the driveway is? So
You can use a pointer. You just
that
have
would
to
be awesome.
push the button.
Okay. So there is, oh, where am I going? This way, maybe. there we go. So it carves right up along here. There's actually landscaping that sticks out and a giant tree right here, which is why it doesn't go tight to the driveway. He said something about the more you curve it, the less effective it is. So he came over and made a straight line that hugs that landscaping as tightly as possible towards the backyard. Cuts across the driveway right here. And then do you have the overhead with the landscaping? And then with the front of the house, the one that's in, it has the...
We didn't necessarily put all your photographs in
Okay,
here.
can you go back to that next one? That might, or no.
I thought we showed one that
The other
showed where that was.
No,
One
go back
more,
the other.
one-
There
yeah.
we go. 1, 2 more, I think. Okay.
Okay.
So it cuts, so it comes up the side of the driveway. He brought it along the back. This is a heavily wooded area, well, not in the fall, but that splits between the houses. So it comes along here, and then he cut it as here, and then cut it as tight. He said the reason that this is all concrete stone walkway and so on, so to install it within, I believe it's a 5 foot of the front door, it would be, they'd have to tear this all up. And then he said, you don't put it in landscaping beds, which are here and here, because when you go out and you do weeding, you're just gonna break the line again anyway. So he basically cut it, because we don't like our dogs in the front yard anyway, but he cut it as tightly as he could. I know there's some concern about, you don't want the dogs running right up to the front by the street. I don't want my dogs going out to the street either. So basically every effort was made to cut it as tightly as possible. Especially in the front, it's a little bit of a trick because of all the landscaping beds and the walkways and everything that are in the front of the house. So knowing what we know after the fact, I believe we did our best, but without having known all of the permitting issues up front, I apologize, is now pre-existing, so to speak.
Well, the good news is it doesn't require evergreen screening.
No, I could show you a picture of it and you'd say it's a patch of grass.
And you've had some neighbor comments on this, or?
I've spoken to our neighbor where we cut right close.
Right.
That's right up against the line. They have a dog, and our dogs have actually met under unfortunate circumstances. So I actually spoke with her, well, probably a couple of weeks ago now. And I had asked her about it. She goes, no, absolutely. She's like, we're all for it. I mean, like I said, it was one of the reasons we got the house, or it was kind of a selling feature of the house, because we moved from an area that has nothing but fences. And so moving to an area that has no fencing, it was a thought. I mean, how are our dogs going to react? And we saw that this house had invisible fence. We said, oh, done, easy. So in training with the invisible fence people, the dogs have responded very positively
Did
to
the
it.
seller's disclosure form say the invisible fence was in working order?
I couldn't tell you. That's a good question. I had it in my pocket.
Only
I
you would ask that.
Well, no, I was thinking, you were thinking that
Well,
question. I was asking that for you.
No, you're the attorney.
No.
Well, wait a minute. Are you saying maybe I could,
No. I'm not planting any seeds of.
Interestingly enough, though, you wonder what sells houses on occasion. In this instance,
Yeah,
it was an invisible fence.
yeah,
It had nothing to do with bedrooms and
No.
bathrooms.
Gorgeous neighborhood. We love it. I'm from Bloomfield originally and left a long time ago, but the invisible fence was definitely another little nudge, especially for the wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we see from the aerial view again? Because we had comments from 4143.
I'm sorry,
it
hold on a
looks
second.
like.
Yeah, it was 4143.
But I don't know, is that, I can't
Not even-
read that.
not
It's
even-
like-
Not even close.
No.
Yeah, 4143.
But
Where is
I don't see that on there.
Yeah, my wife has reached out in the neighborhood groups, and apparently there are a couple people in the neighborhood that just don't like invisible fence. So they're not, and they've made other complaints against other people that have had, but they have no relation to the property other than just they don't like it.
Well, they're afraid maybe they'll break through it,
Well,
or.
'cause sometimes you don't know that there's an invisible, because I walk a lot.
Maybe
and a
they
dog will
maybe
come
they have a
running,
thing
you're like,
against
"Oh,"
Absolutely.
Stop.
No, I
electromagnetic,
totally, I appreciate that.
electromagnetic waves, you know.
Well, and this is what I told the code enforcement guy. I said, listen, it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, I'm getting my money back because they're not cheap.
No, they're not.
And so as far as what we've experienced so far, it does work. So,
Yeah, I've always seen them work, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
And
bit
then-
but if you, right, if you don't know it's
Dog
there.
comes and then stops. You're not sure if the dog's gonna stop.
Right.
Okay, we can talk all night about the.
I'll make a motion. Ready for a motion? Comments are closed, everything?
Comments are, so wait a minute, I think open the public hearing one more time, close the public hearing.
But they don't look too excited.
All right, Mr.
You
Chair, I'll
guys
make a
don't want to comment
motion.
on this?
With regard,
Might help pass the time.
with regard to the appeal at 4237 Antique Lane, for the accessory structure being the existing dog containment fence. I move the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards because the use of the accessory structure is appropriate to the neighborhood as there are other invisible fences, and the resident has made an effort to maintain his dog appropriately. I will move on to the dimensional variance. So with regard to the same address, the appeal at the same address for the encroaching into the required rear yard setback and side yard setbacks and located in a front yard, I move that this variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all of the standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome due to the fact that there's current landscaping and the way that the lot is set up. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors by reason that it's consistent with other homes in the area and it is a replacement. Unique circumstances with the property have been demonstrated given the size and the setbacks and the existing setup, and it is not self-created for the same reasons as just stated. If approved, these motions must include all application for all necessary permits to be made within 5 business days for the existing invisible dog fence, and that is it.
I'll support, but I just have one clarification question for Patty. For the backyard, there's no setback requirement, right? If it was in the backyard.
If it's in the rear yard, there still is a 25-foot
there
rear
is a
setback.
Oh, right, okay.
That's why we referenced the rear
Right,
yard.
right. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I have a motion and support. Any other discussion, questions?
I mean, the only other thing I'm gonna say is that this 4276 neighbor in the back is opposed to it. And it is encroaching,
Oh, yeah, to the right there.
yeah, and that's in the rear.
Well, as I said, there's a heavily wooded area between the houses. It's completely
Did you
unusable.
put more trees?
What's
You're
that?
saying in the fall, it's not as,
Well, because the leaves, so
Right,
you can
they
actually
fall.
see through it. But I mean, in the summertime, you
can't see the
you
fence
can't even
anyway.
see the houses.
yeah, no, I know,
Nothing
but
behind us.
you're talking about if the dog is going right up, to the property line. I'm just wondering if maybe there's more of a buffer, maybe that's.
Oh, there's well more than 25 feet of woods between the yards.
Houses, okay.
Yeah. It just happens to be that where our property line falls, they own more of the woods than we do.
Yeah, so the property line goes through the woods.
Yes.
So it's not an area where you're walking like along a sidewalk or.
No, the kids go into it to retrieve the football, and that's about it.
It's not something that would be usable space.
No, it's definitely not usable space.
So again, I have a motion and a second, and I guess we're still discussing. Any other discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I did.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, request is granted.
Thank you very much.
Item 17. 1751 South Telegraph.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Signage.
Good evening, my name is Todd Devon from 1751 South Telegraph Road. I'm just here to get approval for a face change on the existing sign that's on the front of my building.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Open this to the public. Who would like to comment? Close public hearing. Get back to the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the request for dimensional variance at 1751 South Telegraph Road, I would move that the variance be approved as requested based on the information that has been presented. The applicant has demonstrated all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because we do need to be able to read what the facility is offering. This is because this is for the wall-mounted sign. In addition to the ground-mounted sign, there is no injustice to adjoining neighbors. This is a standard business district, and the sign on the building isn't going to block anybody else's building. The unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated. Again, we've got both the need for the sign at the road and the need for the sign on the building so that people from a distance can see it. Certainly, this is not self-created. We have lots of traffic on Telegraph moving at high speed. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year. All permits must be obtained prior to installation.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Very much.
We got two left and one person. Which one are you here for?
He already spoke.
Oh.
He was for the public.
Oh.
Remember, he gave the comment on.
That's right. I apologize.
He was so entertained by the board, he wanted to stay for the full show. So, item 9, he's got a pergola. I think we could maybe have the staff.
Well, one's pergola, one's a hot tub. I don't know that either of these are difficult.
Yeah.
The first item is a pergola. It's requiring a permission request, but also the fact that it's encroaching into the southerly side yard setback, 5 feet into the required 16.
Only a pergola.
Pergola.
It's at the back of the house, though, isn't it?
Correct, to the rear yard?
Yeah. I mean, it's not sitting way in the back of the property detached from the house. Yeah, so
it's right there.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, with regard to the permission request and request for dimensional variance at 2364 Mulberry Road, I would move that the permission request be granted based on the information presented, submitted. The applicant has demonstrated compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. The accessory structure is not going to hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property because of its location or its use. With that having been said, the dimensional variance, I'm going to move that it also be approved as submitted based on the information presented. The applicant has demonstrated all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome. Again, because of the way everything is situated on the house, its only practical use is in this location. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors, and in fact, it doesn't appear to be close to anybody's home at all, based on the information that we have. Unique circumstance of the property have been demonstrated, again, with the location of the home, the pool, etc. The only way to be compliant would be to stick it out in the middle of the yard where it made absolutely no sense to use. And certainly this is not self-created. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to installation.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Request is granted. Do we feel we can go forward with 10?
So 10 is an existing hot tub. It's located in the rear yard on an existing patio slab, and it complies with the setbacks.
Is there screening back there?
Yeah, the only question would be screening. Do you need screening?
The
Screening in the motion?
It's a permission.
There is some evergreen plantings, but they're not as obscured as you would like it to be.
So you can put that in as a condition.
Screening in here.
So who's like to bring the meeting to by making a motion?
Me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to make a motion to approve the permission request in regards to the appeal at 7176 Lindenmere Drive for the accessory structure of a hot tub. I move that the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with Section 42-7.6 standards because the use of accessory structure is appropriate to the neighborhood, as this is a very common accessory structure and it is in the rear of the home. With that, if approved, the motion also includes all applications for necessary permits must be made within 5 business days because it is an existing hot tub. And additional evergreen screening is required to screen the hot tub from public view.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Request is granted. I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Second. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn the meeting say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're closed.